Good evening, everybody. It is Sunday, March 8th, 2020, a special eco-investment update for Sunday evening here. And, many people, most of the people alive today, I would say the overwhelming majority of people alive today, have probably never witnessed a real full-on financial panic. And this may be the very week that the awesomeness of fear and raw fear of the future unveils itself on the markets. Tomorrow, as I'm recording this tonight, we have crude oil futures which have crashed to around $30 a barrel from $41 a barrel, an unprecedented percentage drop overnight as Saudi Arabia decides to go to war to shut down marginal producers by hopefully driving them out of existence. Potentially good news for consumers, but real bad news if you happen to be a stockholder of one of these large, fully integrated oil companies, the Exxon Mobils, the Chevrons, etc., and some of the second and third tier producers that carry a tremendous amount of debt on their books. Are they able to make money at $30 a barrel? Probably not. It's going to be some tough times, I fear, coming up in the oil sector. This, of course, has a spillover effect into the broad equity market because energy stocks are a significant weighting in things like the S&P 500. It looks like it might be a rather bleak day, and one that you may be able to tell your grandkids about tomorrow, with futures on the opening for the Dow Jones already pointing to 1,000 plus drop on the opening. So we're looking at something in our lifetimes it may be unprecedented, and then you overlay that with the coronavirus impact, which is exponentially multiplying. I think by tomorrow we will have hit 4,000 deaths worldwide, and spiraling very rapidly the number of infections here in the U.S. A really, really tough situation. It's not too late if you haven't gathered yourself a few supplies, some canned goods, some dry noodles and things like that. It might be wise, in case the word comes out, to take some quarantine measures for 14 days or so. It is conceivable. We need only look back to 1918 with the Spanish flu epidemic to see just how bad it can become. Now, a lot of people say, well, we don't, it's not really deadly. Most people recover from it, which they do. The problem is hospitals and treatment facilities only have so many beds. There's only so many intubations that can be done, and there's only so much oxygen. In other words, the supply lines would be very constrained with hospitals filling up with people. And the results, well, we don't have to go there, right? We know what the results, rationing of care and things of that nature. So it's good to be a little prepared and be a little bit wise. Now, the main event tonight that I want to discuss, because I had a couple people had written me as a result of my last updates in the last series of updates, eco-investment updates, with the question, can interest rates really go to zero? And the answer is yes, they can, and they can go below zero. And why would they do that? How could interest rates go below zero? Well, countries like Sweden and Denmark have experienced below zero interest rates in last-ditch attempts to try to stimulate their economies. How does it work? Well, banks hold a lot of reserves, as you know, and most of those reserves they like to keep on deposit with the Federal Reserve System. They earn risk-free money, albeit it might be a small amount of money, but it's risk-free and it's a nice parking spot for them. They get paid. They get paid to put their money with the Fed. Well, suppose the Fed says, you know what, we're not taking your money anymore, okay? You're not going to be able to park your money on deposit with us. In fact, we're going to start charging you a small fee, maybe 0.25% or 0.5% for keeping your money with the Federal Reserve. In other words, instead of us paying you, you're going to be paying us if you're a bank. Well, the theory is when the Fed does that and drives interest rates effectively below zero and charges the banks are in a pretty tough situation. I got a choice. either charge their large depositors, the big corporations and people that keep money on deposit, those negative interest rates, or what the theory is they try to push that money out in loans and things like that to stimulate activity and to stimulate lending. Does it work? It's kind of a mixed bag through history on those type of operations. The problem is, if you overlay plunging equity markets, crashing stock markets, and things like that, the appetite for borrowing declines dramatically as people sense that the business environment is worsening. And why should they take on debt in the face of that and be responsible for trying to pay that back when business conditions don't look to be improving anytime in the future? So it's the old proverbial, it could be like pushing on a string, but we will see as I'm recording this tonight. Interest rates have reached an all-time low with every part of the yield curve, the short term, the 10-year and the 30-year, all below 1%. An unprecedented development, and certainly something that's probably going to make a lot of hair stand on end tomorrow. It should be quite a week coming up. All right, well, thanks so much for watching, everybody, and do try to go out. Do try to spread a little cheer and put a smile on your face. It may help. Okay, thanks, everybody.